Pure Flow podcast. Once again, it's your boy Greg, and today is a special episode on the podcast. Now, when we first started this thing, Einstein said, hey, we want to do this. Let's really focus on beer, the industry, the scene, everything's going on with beer. But he also brought up a really, really good idea. He said, well, you've got a lot of knowledge as far as beer goes, but I also know a lot about hip hop. And, I started thinking about it, and this is really where the whole concept of fusing hip hop and beer. Now, beer, yeah, it's easy to track. It's, it's universal. And probably over the last 30 years, hip hop has played a huge role in just about everyone's lives. You can't go to a wedding and not hear the Sugar Hill Gang, I said a hip, hop, a hibbit, without everyone losing their mind. And it's beautiful. And when I was younger, I would say I was blessed to be a part of that scene to an extent. And I remember a conversation I had with my nephew, and I remember telling him, hey, you don't know what it's like to live in a world where there was no hip hop. Since, my nephew's he's going to be 22 this July, and he doesn't know what it's like to live in a world without hip hop. He doesn't know what breakdancing was. I mean, he knows what it is, he sees it, but he was never a breaker. He never toted around a piece of cardboard, never looked for the tile, and definitely never got challenged by anyone in a breakdancing battle. And it's crazy because myself, Einstein Ed, we're all a part of that. So when I talk about hip hop, yes, I'm going to show my age, and a lot of it's going to be old school references. A lot of the younger cats, they know what it's like. They know what hip hop is. And that's great. It's beautiful. But they don't really know what it is. The great KRS-One from Boogie Down Productions, he said probably the greatest quote ever about hip hop. And what he said was, back in the day, there were seminars and there were hip hop summits, and it was there to create social change. And I remember this quote, and I just carried along with me like a backpack. And he said, "Hip hop is the culture, rap is the language." And when I read that he had said that, it just resonated with me. I remember, and it was just it changed my life. I was like, he's right. He is absolutely right. Hip hop is a culture, and rap is the language. And I also, just to pull into the reference, I remember seeing a documentary about Eminem. It might have been like a Behind the Music or something to that effect. But I remember his mother saying that she allowed him to stay up till like 10 o'clock at night because they were going to show a 3 to 8 minute little snippet / story about breakdancing and about rap music, and she allowed him to stay up to watch that. And I remember the same story from my mother's perspective. I remember that she did the same thing. I wanted to stay up. My younger brother, shout out to Jacob, he stayed up with me. He was a couple, 2.5 years younger than me, and we stayed up to watch Breakers on 2020. And it was just it was prolific. It was just astounding. We loved it. We were little breakdancing kids. Very similar to what, a lot of the hip hop heads in my community saw. We were all in the same boat. So that being said, let me give you a little rundown about my history. I'm in my early 40s. Grew up, born and raised in San Jose, California. And Where I grew up in the neighborhood that I was raised in, it was a really good mix of different cultures, different ethnicities. A lot of it was predominantly Filipino. Um, but we all loved the same thing. We all loved hip hop music. We all knew all the rappers. Especially, we were very West Coast centric. There was a scene in Boys in the Hood where young Trey was walking and a car came up and he was crossing the street and they were playing Jam on It by Nucleus. And I remember seeing Nucleus on Soul Train at like my great aunt's house. And I remember my aunt asking me, "Well, what are you watching, Mio?" And I just remember telling her I was watching Soul Train and Nucleus was on and they're doing Jam on It. And, back then everyone lip synced. They pre recorded all their performances. But it was just profound. It just spoke to me. And with where I grew up, we were all in that. I can't stress this enough. We were all in that same category. We loved hip hop. So back to the whole Filipino thing. There was a Facebook article not too long ago that talked about the importance of the Filipino DJ to the hip hop scene slash from the Bay Area to the Bay Area, and it was there. A guy that I grew up with, from elementary school all the way through high school. I still know him now, as far as Facebook goes. He was immersed in the scene. He was probably one of the greatest DJs I've ever seen. DJ Smurfrock. He played a huge part in the scene, as far as DJing went. And there were a lot of Filipino DJs, a lot of DJ crews, a lot of just all these little contributing factors to hip hop. Okay, let's pause there and let's talk about this for a second. Hip hop to me is the purest form of music that I've ever seen come from nothing to be everything. Think about it now. Think about all the rappers and all the DJs, MCs, hip hop, graffiti artists, all that stuff. There was nothing. There was none of that before. And to see something grow into what is probably the greatest American born form of music since jazz, it's astounding. So, with all of that big around the world way being said, this generation is so lucky. The fact that they have the opportunity to go to school and learn, and not only learn, but study. You can take hip hop history. You can be a hip hop historian. Well, Jesus Christ, I didn't have that option back then in 1990 to 92. Fuck, if I had that opportunity, that's probably the route I would have gone. But here we are today. All I can tell you is my perspective, and I'm not going to lie, I have a really good knowledge of hip-hop overall. Now, I definitely saw everything emerge from the West Coast. In some of the early episodes, I shouted out NWA Straight Outta Compton. Yeah, I remember sneaking a copy of Eazy-E's Easy Does It. I remember seeing when NWA had their first 12-inch of Dope Man, and it wasn't by NWA, it was by NWA and the Posse. And they had Suzuki Samurais, and there was like 12 to 20 dudes on the backside of the album cover. It was crazy. And I loved that. But as I got older, and just like everything, especially with beer as well, as you get older, or just basically as time goes on, your tastes change. And even back then, I loved MC Hammer, but I also remember him as being MC Hammer, the Holy Ghost boy. It might have been a few years after he was a bat boy for the A's. Well, who knows? But I remember that 12-inch of Ring 'Em, and that was like the hardest record to find for a DJ. But if a DJ had it, they were the shit. It was just, you drop that record and it was on. It was a party. Everybody had a good time. I remember going to all the house parties, and this is definitely where the distinction between East Coast and West Coast comes into play. Being from the West Coast, especially here in California, Northern California, Bay Area, there were a lot of house parties. And once again, this is where the Filipino culture comes into play. Somebody had a cousin or a cousin or an auntie or an uncle that knew somebody that DJ'd, and they would have the DJ in the garage. And after all the aunties and uncles went inside, wrapped up the food, put away the pancit, the kids would go out and dance. They would do the Reebok. They would do, the Cabbage Patch when it was still cool. They did all that in the garage, and it was just one of the greatest feelings that I don't think a lot of this generation has. They didn't have that opportunity because it was so new, and I get it. It's fine. We'll all get along. So, all that being said, that really planted the seed for my love of hip hop. So as I got older, as my taste changed, I noticed that a lot of the West Coast rap kind of started sounding the same. I loved, I especially loved the Bay Area artists. Back then, it was pretty much kind of, Too Short. There was one rapper from San Jose. His name was MC Twist. Shout out! I don't know where the hell he is. But I also haven't looked him up. So if you know where he is, send him a line. Have him email us here at thebeerflow.com. I would love to talk to him. So, as my taste changed, I also started learning about the craft of rap music. I started learning what an MC is. So my question to you, if you were a youngster in your, we'll say mid 30s to maybe 21-year-old, because hopefully you're 21 buying beer based on recommendations from the Beer Flow, you're of age, and if you're in that 21 to 35 age demographic, let me ask you this. Do you know what an MC is? I know you guys sit there and talk about your bars. And once again, shout out to my brother Jacob. I remember him saying one time, if all you're talking about is your bars, then you may not be a real rapper. Because yes, it's very easy to set up GarageBand. I know, trust me. But MC, by definition, is master of ceremonies. Back then, you had to move the crowd. An MC to rock him meant move the crowd. You had to be able to do it live. You had to be able to rhyme in front of a live audience. That's what hip-hop was back then. Being able to get that, having the best line, that's what hip-hop was. That's what rapping was. And I just recently I remember seeing an interview with Snoop, and they asked him, would you be able to survive as a rapper nowadays? And I remember he said, yeah, I would, but he understands that the times have changed, and now, the rappers are just whatever, Porzingi, whatever. That wouldn't have flown back then, because you had to be able to have the skill to actually rap, to craft a rhyme, let alone, yes, 4 bars, yeah, that's fine. But Rakim never, stuck to 4 bars. He's the greatest rapper ever. So, okay, enough of the old man on the lawn. This is what I'm trying to basically say, is that we here at the Beer Flow, we love our beer. Absolutely love our beer, but we also love rap music and hip hop. We love the culture. We love everything it's brought to the world. It's a worldwide phenomenon, as many rappers and other people have said. It is a worldwide phenomenon. So my question to you is, as much as you love the beer, do you love the hip hop as much as we do? You don't have to. That's fine. But what I'm telling you is, I do. I love my beer and I love my hip hop. And I'm a purist in both forms. So, yeah, I may make fun of the dudes. Let's face it. Sometimes I make fun of the hipsters, and that's fine. You can make fun of me. You can make fun of me and Einstein Ed and our old school views, and that's fine. Now, that being said, let's talk about rap music and hip hop. I do listen. I listen to everything. It's not so much, well, prove to me you're good. Prove to me that you're better than my old school rappers. Well, let's face it, there was a lot of crap back then too. But there are, I definitely come from the golden age. At least that's what I've heard it's been called. The golden age of hip hop. The old school. Or some people, as myself, have said, the true school. 87, great year. PELL, EPMD, all that. Too Short, all that. All that came in 87. And from 87 to about 93, I would say it was probably the greatest years of hip hop. That's when the best rappers came out. Some of the greatest albums that hold the test of time. Those albums came out then. So one of the references I'm probably going to use a lot is pre and post Wu. So in 1993, the Wu-Tang dropped the classic album, Enter the 36 Chambers by the Wu-Tang. That was with everybody. Everyone was on there. Meth, Raekwon, Ghost, ODB, everyone was on that. So if you hear the phrase or term pre or post Wu, that's where we're at. That's the time frame, 1993. And like I said, I think pre Wu, from about 87 or 93, some of the greatest hip hop albums ever were released then. Some of the greatest hip hop artists were around, alive, and kicking. And what sucks is now a lot of those rappers pre Wu are on the old timers list. They're definitely in the don't hold this against me. I'm probably wrong, but I think it's on Sirius XM. Was it the whatever, the Slim Shady, the flashback channel? I'm sorry. I didn't check this one, but I know that it's a throwback station, and they do a lot of that stuff as far as like old school is concerned. And a lot of those artists now are doing tours, and they're considered flashback artists, or and it's kind of disheartening, but what are you gonna do? It comes with old age, and that's fine. I get it. And then there's post Wu. That's when you have, Biggie came out around 93, 94. Jay-Z definitely came into play. And then, you've got, Nas. I already mentioned Jay-Z, Kanye, all these guys. Everyone came out after that. I get it. And that's fine. Pre and post Wu. What are you going to do? So, to lay the groundwork, when I personally hear Einstein, he will take a back seat as far as content goes for this, but this is going to definitely be, when we do a B-side episode, it's going to be all hip-hop, and we'll do a couple beer shout-outs. It's basically the exact reverse of what we usually do for our Beer Flow podcast, as far as where we focus on, the beers, the scene. We'll do our, 15 for 12, where we rate, 2 beers and why you should devote 15 minutes to those 12 ounces of beer, or 22s, but we're going to keep it as 15 for 12, where we rate 2 beers. And then we do the 1 to 3 minute shout out to a hip hop song or an artist. When you hear us say that we're doing a B-side, it's going to be reversed. Just like an old school album, there was the B-side. There was the main song. That was the one that was going to be played on the radio. That was that was the song that the record company sent out. This is what you play. This is what you play. And on the B-side, they considered it the throwaway song that the artist recorded. True hip-hop heads never considered it that. That was usually the great one, the hard to find. May not have even made the album, but that was the one we loved. So here at the Beer Flow, you hear us doing a B-side episode of the podcast, it's going to be hip-hop. So on those B-side episodes, we're going to focus on an artist, a scene. Hopefully we get to actually interview some people in the hip-hop world and the hip-hop industry. We'll start throwing out old school shout-outs, talking about, okay, so here's one example. Shout out, Tip My 40, Leopold's Records. Shout out, Tip My 40, Star Records. All those that are hardcore hip hop heads, I can hear you. I can hear you jump up, do a little golf clap. I love it. I love it because I know you're smiling. I'll throw out another one. Who remembers when you had to wait on a Tuesday for an album to come out and you had to walk into the warehouse? Remember when albums actually dropped and you had to wait and there was no iTunes. You couldn't download it, at 9 p.m. Eastern the night before because of the time difference. It was such a different time. It was such a beautiful time. So, new school hip hop heads, I need you to do a little homework. I need you to find a song, find a rapper, find something you think is preferably something you didn't hear before. So go on your YouTubes, go on to the Apple Music, wherever you get music from, wherever you listen to music, go on to it. Find something pre-woo. I'll tell you what. You find me 2 songs, one pre-woo, one post-woo. Show me a song you like. Whatever song combo I find the most interesting, that will definitely get discussed on the next B-side episode. That's the homework. That's it. That's all I got. That is the explanation of the Beer Flow Podcast B-side. We wanted to make sure that we definitely addressed the hip-hop. I wanted to let you know my love for the hip-hop. This is a beer and hip-hop podcast. We will discuss. We will definitely bring something to the forefront. And new school heads, don't trip. I can't. I'm not gonna hate. I love hip hop so much. That being said, because I love it so much, I am protective of it. So you bring me something. Don't bring me no junk. Don't bring me no bullshit. If it's whack, old school term, pre-woo, don't trip. If it's whack, I'll call it whack. I'll have no problem calling it whack. And I think true school hip hop heads, they'll probably agree. So don't bring no junk. Bring the real. So give us a shout out. Give us a listen. Go to the email address, thebeerflow.com. Send us your pre and post woo songs, 2 songs, one from each era. Let me know. We'll talk about it. We'll discuss it. We'll highlight it. We'll do what we got to do. Because we here at the Beer Flow Podcast, like we always say, we're helpers. We like to help. All right. I think I've gone on long enough with the explanation of the B-side. This is all coming from a place of love. We here at the Beer Flow Podcast, we love you. We're helpers. We love the beer and we love the hip hop. And it's communal. We all want to share. We all want to love. So that being said, instead of doing 2 beers of review, well, okay, I'll just give 2 beer shout outs just because it's that time of the year. Right now, I just had, luckily, this year, the Goose Island Bourbon County Stout now holds a significant meaning. It has a special place in our heart here at the Beer Flow Podcast, especially with the with us promoting the event of Black Fruit Friday. There was an exchange. There's love. Once again, Goose Island Bourbon County now holds a special place in our hearts at the Beer Flow Podcast. So every year, Black Fruit Friday, look for the Goose Island Bourbon County. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. Find it. Second beer of note, for the B-side episode of the Beer Flow Podcast, Hip Hop Edition. I'm not even going to lie. I can't front. I love Pliny the Elder. This is what I'm sipping on right now as I'm doing this episode. Pliny the Elder from Russian River Brewing Company. God bless you. Shout out. About a month ago, I actually had the luxury, the honor of going to Russian River. I went to the brewery. Made a mistake, though, so it was my bad. We went to the brewery when we were actually trying to go to the restaurant. And so, I know where both are, so it's cool. But when we got to the restaurant, we got to try, their menu it's insane. But, of course, when you do a flight, the last two that they end with, for as far as the California beers are going to be, it's going to be Blind Pig, which, don't worry, we're going to do a review of that. Shout out Russian River Blind Pig. God bless you. But as much as, it's easy for everyone to say, Pliny the Elder, hands down, one of the greatest beers I've ever had in my life. Definitely up there as far as last meal on earth. If I was going to be executed, what would my last meal be? Probably a Bacon cheeseburger washed down with a Pliny the Elder. It's the best. For me, personally, it's the best. So, those are my two beers. Quick shout-outs during our B-side episode of the Beer Flow Podcast, which emphasizes on the hip-hop. So, that being said, like I said, send us your two post and pre-woo, 2 songs. Give me one of each. Let's hear it. Einstein, go ahead, send us out. If I could put a needle on the record. Yeah. Just for shits and giggles and for reference sake. Here is Nucleus. Jam on it. Please enjoy. Pre-woo. God bless you all. Peace, love, and beer. That's the motto of the week. Peace, love, and beer. From everyone here at the Beer Flow Podcast. Jam on it by Nucleus. Einstein Head. I'm out of here. Peace. Jam on it.
Down and ain't giving no slack like a buddy king with the sack of Big Macs. With throwing down and with the rockables hats on time. In your mind, you see, you gotta boogie to your best ability. You gotta funk it up until it knocks you down. And when you